Hey, how's it going? When Boundary entered early access, they introduced 3 new Astro operators. We talked about Doc and Fort in previous weeks. This week, we're talking about Probe. Probe, the Recon expert, has 2 health, 1 armor, and 3 mobility. As for weapons that Probe has, he has the DMR, the AR, the TK-47, SVD, CDP, FOP, IDW, and APS. As for equipment, Probe has probably the most useful set of pods available. He has the Hive, the Probe, the Space Sparrow, the EMP grenade, HE grenade, and motion sensor. I know there's a lot of questions on what does what, so let's just break it down. Hive and Space Sparrow, let's start with that. Hive is micro missiles. Anytime that someone is locked on, it could be either by ADSing for 5 seconds, it could be used by gadget use. Anytime you get that lock, it will swing forward and you can use it just by pushing 3. Space Sparrow, on the other hand, can be fired freely. However, it's a little more than that. You can hold right click and laser guide it, which doesn't fly as fast as having a lock, but you can maneuver it however you like. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can use the exact same methods that you would with Hive, getting a lock either with ADSing or with gadget use. And if you don't hold right click, it'll do heat bore, and normally you'll see a box around a person if they are lit up. The other 2 pieces of equipment I do want to talk about really briefly is the Probe and the motion sensor. Motion sensor basically is line of sight within the effective radius. Probe, on the other hand, is anyone within that radius will get lit up. As for gadgets, Probe only has the grapple hook and the momentum brake. My experience playing Probe I can only describe as bliss. Maybe it's because I'm coming off a Fort and being really slow, really big, going to someone who's essentially the same target as Doc or Spike with the same stats, just felt really nice. Combo that with the weapons available and I just felt like I could take over any game I played. The weapons I used for his progression was the DMR and the AR. I would have used the SVD, but it unlocked at level 27, and that was a little bit too late for me. Around on my time on Probe, I did finish off the FOP. I did a couple games with the CDP, and I suffered through the APS. I don't know what it is, I just really did not like it. I should mention how I played Probe. Basically, I played exactly the same way that I did as Fort, but a little bit faster. Not as fast as Doc, but not as slow as Fort. Maybe the same speed as Orlin. What I mean by that is I'd be very annoying to the other team. I would take gunfights that I know I could win, and when they would start to push me from different angles, I would move to a different spot to get the same angle and cover where I was just in case they pushed on a flank. Moving on to the good and the bad, starting with the good, his weapon pool is A tier if not S tier. While I only use the DMR and the AR, the TK is really good, and SVD doesn't even need to be good because the rest of the weapons are just that good. For instance, the build that I got for the DMR worked long range, medium range, and close range somehow, some way. SMG still got me killed, but for the most part, my close range kills were pretty consistent. Next up, heat management, mobility, size, whatever you want to call it. He has the same stats as Doc and Spike, so what that means is he has a small target and he doesn't get punished by moving around a whole lot. While he only has grapple, if you pair him with a Doc or a Spike, it could be a very annoying, aggressive duo to make a lot of problems for the other team. Lastly, Probe can be really good. If the enemy doesn't take care of them immediately, it can be a real thorn in their sides, which really is a metaphor for life. If you don't take care of nagging pains in your day-to-day life, they can really... Sorry, anyway, let's move on to the bad. Admittedly, Probe is pretty balanced, not gonna lie. Couldn't think of too many bad things to say about it, but I did think of 2, one of which being not having a close range weapon. Now, it's not exactly a bad thing because his range of weapons that he does have is really good. It's just if you get a Spike or Doc close range, they will kill you just because of their superior close range weapons. Lastly, it's not even him in particular, just pods in general have a slow speed. So because the Hive and the Sparrow kind of take a little bit longer than just shooting someone, it's kind of useless in my personal opinion. Not saying you can't use them for fun, but I feel like with a buff to the action speed will make this into a more neutral point. So some final thoughts. Did I enjoy my experience? Yeah, he's really good. Again, I feel like he's really balanced. The negatives don't really come into a factor if you don't want to use the pods and you are keeping your distance. So there's not really anything bad to say about it. Would I main Probe? Maybe. The playstyle I feel like is a little too slow in my personal opinion. If he gets a close range weapon, then we'll talk. If I were to main Probe, I'd probably stick with these 2 loadouts. First one being DMR, IDW, Probe, Hive, Knife, Grapple, and the other one is just swapping the AR and the FOP for the primary and secondary and keeping everything else the same. As far as improvements, like I said before, Probe is pretty good, the only negatives being not having a close range weapon, which really isn't a problem, and then the slow pod speed, which increasing across the board would just make everyone better in my personal opinion, so he's pretty good to go. But let me know if you disagree down in the comment section below. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Next week we're talking about leeway. I'm going to get my sniping on and we're going to try to have some fun quickscoping. That's the video. Hope you guys have a nice day.